Mills spent years as an international expert at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, helping to launch the global campaign to eradicate malaria. And maybe you are like Melody, a go-getter. You work hard, you give everything to be at the top of your game. But how do we keep thriving among all the unknown pressures we are facing today? Melody, it is so good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Karen. Great to be here.
So Melody, do you still work for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation?
I don't. I left that role in 2018 and
Why? What happened?
I sold all my belongings and set out with a suitcase and a smartphone. I was obviously a diplomat and philanthropist for many years. And I always say I was fighting for the freedom of others and fighting to alleviate other people's pain because I didn't know how to turn towards my own pain. And so there was a reckoning. My 54-year-old mom had passed away. My marriage had suddenly ended, and I ended up with a panic attack on the bathroom floor at work, and was rushed to the ER and was told that it was nothing but panic and
Wow.
and it was my moment of either I keep climbing the ladder and chasing a version of success someone else defines for me, or I step back and let everything burn to the ground so that I can build my life based on what is true.
So you walked away, got rid of everything, except your suitcase and your smartphone. So I've heard you say, escape busy, in quotes. When women stop being busy, they can be free. So Melody, when we have 100 things we need to do and it keeps piling up and we feel more and more overwhelmed, what is the secret?
The secret is choosing yourself and honoring commitments to yourself, just like you would your kids or a doctor appointment or a request from your boss. And I wholeheartedly believe that when we stay busy in doing mode, we can't tap into our joy. And so real freedom comes when you realize that you first and foremost belong to yourself, and that you are willing to essentially release all the codependent addictions we have that fuel the dopamine in our brain by achieving, right? So we have to transition from being validated externally by achieving and doing things for people. And I believe women have inherited this patriarchal wound. It's really not our fault, but we show up in the world as the emotional caretakers, as the achievers, as the doers. And until women take back and claim their right to love and nourish themselves and their soul and not live a busy life, we're always going to be in this cycle of addicted to anxiety, to busyness, and to stress, because we're carrying things that don't belong on our plate.
And so what's one of the first steps for a busy working mom with kids and trying to manage it all and be at home and raise them with their education now at home? And what is one idea of the first step that our listeners could benefit from today?
So I really believe that play and rest are the gateway to transformation, because I do believe that this is a deeper mindset shift that women have to go through, but that you can do this work while playing and resting, right? That women are used to it having to be the hustle and hard. And so I always encourage women to make a happy list, and we brainstorm what they love to do on vacation or not, right? Just what they would like. If time wasn't an issue, if money wasn't an issue, what would be those things that you know now? And most women kind of struggle to give me an answer because their mind is so
what? Stop and think about what I enjoy. What is that? When is the last time I did that?
But coming up with a strategic happy list that then we can start plugging into your calendar, whether that's 5 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. I say you can take yourself on a date once a week. You can plan a retreat with yourself once a month. You can develop a morning routine. But the whole point is that if play and rest are the gateway to transformation, how do we actually get you to name the things that bring you joy and to start doing them? Because I think that kind of begets this momentum of oh, I can choose myself. Oh, I can do things I love. Oh, the world doesn't fall apart when I drop the balls. And the more we drop balls and let go of other people's expectations that we're carrying that we really aren't ours to carry, the more freedom we can find.
That's so huge. And that's so hard to do. It's so easy to say, right? And then people say, but how do you avoid the feelings of feeling guilty that I right? Don't you get those questions? What do you say to that?
All the time I say, you will feel guilty. But on the other side of it, well, women are waiting for permission slips that only they can give themselves. So their guilt is based on the idea that you are not worthy or you do not have permission to choose your desires and your needs. And as humans, I literally believe, so emotions are energy in motion. So I'm actually an infectious disease specialist. I've worked in medicine my whole career. I believe that we are sick when we don't tend to our emotions. And that energy gets stuck. And it's because we're not naming them and we don't believe we have capacity to tend to it. So, right, you could wake up in the morning and feel overwhelming grief because a friend just moved away from town, or you could feel thirsty because you haven't drinking water. It doesn't matter what your needs are, but when women don't believe that they can meet those needs first, we're just perpetuating this state of sickness and emotional unhealth. And I think that noticing our needs and then actually starting to meet them is the journey to freedom.
I love how you traveled the world and asked people, what is freedom? And they said, the ability to name your desire, ask for what you need, and to choose yourself. So at the low moments when sometimes it looks like we have it all, but inside we're actually secretly stressed and overwhelmed, what do we do? And I know you're sharing with us a first step, but what is something you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
I would actually also like to talk about using your voice. I think women can stay quiet, right? They don't even declare to themselves their needs and desires, let alone other people. And how women start taking back their times is they start like asking people for help and they start claiming what they need. And they start acknowledging their limitations, because when we surrender to having to be perfect, having to be good, having to try hard, that's when we're free to change our mind. We're free to change our opinion. We're free to say, like, this isn't working out and we need to change it. And I interview people from all over the world and have spent a lot of time in developing countries where people tangibly have less, right? Less money, smaller homes, more financial insecurity, but they have more capacity to be in connection with people. They know how to speak their needs. They have these somatic body practices of whether it's dancing or singing or writing, but they have cultivated rhythms that allow them to turn towards their emotions rather than turn away from them. And so I saw people that literally were at home with themselves, right? And that's what I so deeply wanted, was to come back home to myself so that I didn't have to be that girl. I mean, as a diplomat, I represented other people's voices. I was very politically attuned.
Hold up the image of them.
It was
not really who you are.
Yeah, it was armor, and it was not having my own opinions, right? Because when you have your own opinions, you're going to disappoint people. You're going to make people unhappy.
And you might not be representing who hired you, in a sense, who our boss or our job has hired you, right?
Totally. Yeah, so I would encourage women, whether that's writing, every day I will write how I'm feeling physically and how I'm feeling emotionally, and literally have a chart of feelings words to just get to that core feeling. So and powerful. with no judgment, just writing it down, because I know that's powerful. Change is a very simple step, right? Because when women think about escaping busy, it's like, oh, I have to redesign my whole life. And the research has found that it is daily right actions that change your life. And so
those little steps, right? And then you look back and you're like, oh, here I am.
So I work with clients to develop rhythms that are going to create a happy list, that are going to serve them, their soul, and just make them feel a little bit better, right? That we can do things that feel good. We do not have to earn our rest. When women literally take their planner, and rather than planning their to-do list and their grocery list, that they put the same intention into planning their rest, just because they're worthy and not because they've earned it or everything else is done. We need to be resting before we're working. And it is the literal Western civilization has reversed this mindset.
I say that.
Yeah. And it is causing all sorts of disease.
And I love that. It's actually dis-ease. When you break that word disease into two, if you look at it as a dis-ease, when I saw that one day in a book from Louise Hay, it just stopped me dead in my tracks. I was like, wow, that's so true. So you invite us into, I love this, a journey of soulcation, where we prioritize soul care, rest, and play for a season until we can figure out what we really want. My question is it really possible to do this with working? I think I probably already said this, raising your kids, doing all of your normal day-to-day things. How does that fit in? Maybe how has one of your clients fit that in? Can you give us a picture of an example of that? Maybe that would help our listeners.
Yeah, so the word Soulcation was created because I saw Americans that work hard for like 2 weeks of vacation a year. And this concept that we want to always escape our life and check out, numb out, distance, and then we come back to a life with a boss we don't like, with a partner we don't like, with overwhelming responsibilities at home. And we never really use that time away to rethink our boundaries in the way that we're doing life. So for, say, a client that's really overwhelmed, I say sometimes it takes a period of deep reflection. Like the concept of Soulcation is almost a permission slip to tell people like, hey, I'm taking a few months of Soulcation. I'm going to have to step away from some responsibility. It's not like you run away to Italy for 3 months, but it's literally just kind of like that vocabulary to say, hey guys, my soul needs a break. I'm taking a Soulcation. And creating more space. So whether that's weekends away or evenings to yourself, or I really do believe that spending time with yourself and literally like any partner or love relationship, like cultivating a love relationship with yourself, which takes time. So my clients, the first thing we do is like literally look at their calendar and see how we can create space. And I always say that like if your mom called you today and said she had cancer, you would be able to create space to be in the hospital. Like this is a solvable problem. It's really just about mindset. So spaciousness to turn towards yourself and almost like start dating and romancing and loving yourself, because women are the vessels of love, but we often are the worst at loving ourselves. And I love to, on a very tactical level, just start with clients in like giving them space in their day to like do happy, fun, mindless things. Because the thing is we actually know the answers. I think lots of life coaches and lots of content out there is like externally trying to give you a process. And I actually believe that our inner knowing is going to be our best guide. And in order to access that, we have to be still, we have to be silent, and we have to be in relationship with our emotions, with our needs, and with our very selves. So the magic actually happens when women slow down enough to cultivate that relationship. So anything, right? Like anything you can do to hear those desires that for some of my clients have never been spoken before, never been accessed, because there's so many mental barriers to really claiming our dreams. And the gift of Soulcation is to say, yeah, you don't need me. I don't know the answers, but I sure as hell know that you're not going to be free until you slow down enough to put everyone else's priorities off of your plate and put like you at the top of your to-do list.
And what's one of the hardest challenges that your clients face through this process that maybe our listeners can just hear from?
Fear. I mean, it does require, I always say that my new life cost me my old one, right? And so many women want to hang on to both lives. They want their freedom, but they also want to be the best mom in the carpool and be the wife that their husband talks about and have like the biggest job while like making the perfect dinner, right? Like these are all unrealistic expectations. We want to grab onto the narrative that we inherited from society.
Or our parents, right?
Yeah, or our parents.
A lot of that frames what we know and what we do and how we think without even, it's very almost a subconscious level.
Mm-hmm. When we actually have to rewrite our story. And so I find women juggle because sometimes they just want help like living in that old narrative, right? And they're not willing to like throw it out. Like the hardest part is actually the unlearning burning down, letting go. Like women were never taught to unlearn, and women were never taught to like changing a belief is not something our society expects, and it changes relationships. Like it's going to change who your friend, like I will say this right now, and it's probably, I don't always tell this to my clients when they start, but your friendships are going to change likely, right? Your work life might change, maybe not. Your, how you say yes and no, like you are going to say no to a whole hell of a lot of things. And it's going to make you so much happier, and you're going to feel playful, and you're going to have access to this inner child, and you are going to delight in the little things in life. And when you stop trying to be extraordinary and you just sink into the ordinary things you love, and you have named them and you claim them, you are walking a path that is going to set your heart on fire, and is going to help you show up with passion and joy. But it is going to cost you operating in that old world.
And are you when you're willing, ready to take that risk to change your life, right? It's just like that one choice away, I choose to take this step in this direction to change it for something better and good. Well, I love your story and your message, especially right now, because through the pandemic, things are more topsy-turvy than ever, with even more stress and uncertainty, things being unpredictable. And yet on a normal day, we're struggling with a bunch of stress, overwhelm, and trying to make ends meet and hold up all the balls in the air. And I love how your message for us right now is something that is like a healing, right? In a sense. We can heal our lives through this process that you're sharing with us. So what's one last thing you would like to leave to a listener today? What's something you want us to remember?
You have permission to choose yourself, and that your wants and desires are so valid. And rather than abandoning what you want and desire, like I want to give you a full permission slip to choose that and put that at the top of your to-do list.
Thank you, Melody. Well, so Melody, if someone goes to your website, I noticed that they can try the daily Soulcation planning page for free. If you go to Melody's website, which I'll put in the description notes of this episode, just click on that and it pops right up, and you can get started on your new journey today. And Melody, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to see you again, and I look forward to reconnecting soon.
Thanks, Karen.